Hello, welcome back, my favorite movement enthusiasts. Last week we worked on our deep squat mobility, how to get into the deep squat, how to work more efficiently in this position, and how to add to this position to advance your mobility work. So today we're going to take it a step further and look at other starting positions or seating positions that are going to increase your mobility just by relaxing or resting in them. And then we're going to learn how to utilize even those to build more mobility, so we have a nice little rounded up holistic routine of different mobility works that we can do depending on how we feel, how much space we have, and where we're at right now. So if you're ready, let's check some of those out. I want to put this sitting position at the very beginning because it's going to be our last exercise and it's going to be the hardest exercise. But the seating position itself is very important because both legs are fully extended in front of our upper body, and a lot of people struggle with staying upright and losing the tension in their core and falling backwards. So you need a lot of posterior chain mobility to be able to sit here actively. Now, there are many sitting positions that we can start from that already require at least a medium amount of mobility, starting with a classic sit on the knees. I know a lot of people who are not able to do this, and if you are one of those, then you have some work to do. You can start by elevating your butt, sitting down on something like so, and over time reducing the elevation until you can sit down fully. You can even start with external rotation in your knees, so instead of sitting on your feet, you have an even lower starting position all the way here. This is amazing for our knee and hip mobility as well as for our ankle mobility. As you can see from a sideways view, we have a complete stretch of our tibialis, lengthening our feet and pushing our ankle into a more mobility requiring position, which means that when we roll forward or backwards, we're going to have a lot more movement in our ankle joint, which is always a nice bonus to have, and is going to help you when getting into these different positions like a deep squat, which moves us to our second resting position, which will be a semi-kneeling position. Now here we can already use this to work a little bit on our ankle mobility by going through flexion and relaxation to strengthen that tibialis, as well as relaxing our Achilles tendon, our gastrocnemius and soleus to give us more space to push forward. You should be able to bring your knee right over your toes and have the mobility to keep your heel in full contact with the ground. So this is a nice place to sit and work on this as well. The next sitting position or resting position is one that I see a lot of fighters not being able to get into it because they have a lot of tension in their legs from all the kicking and bending and stuff. And that is gonna be either the Turkish seat, a very relaxed one, or you can even move from here into a semi-lotus position or a pseudo-lotus where we only have one foot elevated. Now we're stretching the front side of our feet again. Amazing for our ankle mobility, just like the one before, but we also have some nice external rotation in our hip joint, and our knee joint is fully rotated as well, meaning we can push the knee down to add some extra mobility with this resting position. The next one usually fails because of a lack of core strength and hip flexor strength and a lack of mobility in your glutes as well as your spinal erectors, which will be the extended sitting position. Now, just being able to sit here fully extended is already a problem for a lot of people, and that is not a good thing because it shows how much tension you carry in your posterior chain, and that will over time lead to an increased risk of injury, which we don't want. If you're not able to get into this position, just look for a wall behind you where you can lean back and over time push back and extend your upper body more and more until you can freely sit in this position. This is one of my favorite sitting positions, and that is a half knee seated position where we have one leg fully extended and we're just sitting on a single leg. Now, from a sideways view here, you can see we need a lot of ankle mobility. As always, we need a lot of knee mobility, and to sit upright without falling backwards, we're going to require a lot of gluteal mobility, core strength, and spinal erector mobility. So now that we have gone through the sitting positions or the resting positions themselves, let's check out every single one of those with the associated exercises we can do. Starting with the full seated knee position. All we need to do from here is bring your hands right behind your head and move into a hip thrust, lengthening your hip flexors, lengthening your quadriceps. And if you want to add even more, stretch as well as strengthening. To this one, all you need to do is lean backwards. Now, the more we lean backwards, the more stretch we're going to have in our anterior chain, and the more strength we're going to require in our posterior chain as well. Not only to keep us from falling down all the way, but also to help us reverse the movement with our core strength before we sit down again. Now, we've already mentioned our first exercise for the half kneeling position, which is just bringing your knee over your toes and reversing the movement. But we can move even further to include some hip flexor mobility as well as strengthening our posterior chain once more, especially our glutes and our biceps femoris. So all we need to do from here is elevate once more, bring one knee down and push our hip forward. Now you can even add some rotation in your knee and your hip if you want to, but not to make it too complicated. We're just going to use this one and reverse the movement. So we're pushing forward, making a smaller angle in our ankles to increase the flexibility we have here. Push forward, roll over your toes, and then push your pelvis forward, lengthening your hip flexors on the other side, as well as strengthening our posterior chain musculature. So we reverse and push forward. We reverse and push forward. And if you want to add another level to this one, we're just going to push forward, go into more rotation on one side, more rotation on the other side before you reverse and repeat. So now that we're moving into the Turkish seat again, we have a little bit more of an advanced exercise that is going to require a little bit more balance, mobility and strength, but it will be an amazing additional benefit to have if you can work on this. Now, all we need to do for this one is just extend one leg depending on what side you want to work on. And from here, all we need to do is push sideways to elevate this knee and then roll over our toes to bring us into our deep squat position. Now we can instantly reverse this by sitting down, pulling the leg in, and then switching. We're gonna stand this knee up, move laterally into our deep squat position, and then reverse into our Turkish seat starting position. For the extended resting position, the benefit here is that we can nicely work on our entire posterior chain mobility without having to so much as bend a single knee or ankle. All we need to do for this one is raise the extended leg to strengthen our hip flexors in combination with our quads and lower abdominals, bring them back and move forward into a more and more stretchy or flexibility requiring pike position. Sit up, raise, and move forward. Of course, we're going to do both sides just so we don't end up asymmetrical or imbalanced. Forward stretch, backward strengthen, forward stretch and backward strengthen. Now that we move into the semi or asymmetrical sitting positions, we can use this to our benefit as well. And again, both strengthen as well as stretch most of our anterior and our posterior chain through a combination of moving forward into a lunging position. Now we're already working on our ankle mobility by driving our knee forward. We're already working on our hip flexor mobility by lengthening this side. And then when we reverse, we're going to also include strengthening the hip flexor on the other side. Use your core to keep you upright. If you have problems with balance, you can just put your hands down below. So we're only going to move forward into our lunging position, stretching here, working on the mobility in all of those three joints, and then reversing and strengthening. And of course, we're not allowed to forget the other side. Push forward into the lunging position, reverse, use your core to keep you upright, and elevate. If you are advanced and you want to try something more advanced, then here you go. We're going to start again in our knees to the ground position, and we're going to go through full rotation in our knees. Sit down, extend fully, pull in on the other side so we have a complete rotation. Now we're going to switch directions, extend, pull in on the other side, and move up. We're engaging our core, our hip flexors, and our glutes, as well as our leg musculature in the extension, as well as in the bendy part. You can bring your hands, as usually, behind your head, go into this full rotation, and sit back down again. As promised, this will be our most advanced exercise when it comes to combining mobility with strength from a seated position. We're going to start out with both legs extended. We're going to pull in one leg, switch into our pistol squat, sit back down and extend fully. So now we're going through a full range of motion of movements. First off, we have our hip flexors engaged, our abdominals required to pull us forward for our butt to leave the ground. And then we have a lot of quadricep strength required to pull us up and reverse. We need a lot of balance for that, because if you don't have that, you're going to be really shaky, and most of the times you're going to have a problem reversing the entire movement. So starting position is always extended, pull in, pistol that shit, and reverse it once more. So now we don't only have like half a dozen sitting or resting positions that are going to require a lot of mobility from you to get into them, but we also have for every single one of these resting positions at the very least one exercise that is going to require strength or mobility or even both, so you can work on them from your resting position. Sadly, however, this is all the time I have left for you today. If you like the video and subscribe, and check out other videos, because we have new ones on this channel every single day. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Captain Cairo. Peace out.